Okay, I'm not your average YouTuber. I'm just a guy who has this metalworking machine who does things like this for a hobby. This is a Shopmaster 1720 XMTC made in 1998. I have done a boatload of work on this thing. I wired it up for touch DRO, put all the slides on, got one up here in the quill, replaced the bearings in the mill spindle, but I had a mishap and the lathe spindle bearings appear to have been damaged. You can feel that and hear it, a definite thumping. So there's another guy who made a video about replacing the mill bearings because he couldn't find any information on doing it anywhere and figured he would make a video for other people. The only reason I'm doing this is because I cannot find any information on how to do this. So I'm going to make a video to show how to do it, and it'll be the only video probably I ever upload, and hopefully it'll help somebody out. Okay, I just spent some time taking off the sensor there for the DRO for the speed. This other wiring here is for a contraption I don't use that has lights so you can time your threading. But now we're down to, we have to get this pulley off, and I'm not really sure if this spindle will come out of there without disassembling this whole machine. You got bolts here and this same thing on the other side behind that pulley, but there's a gear on this that this mechanism mates with. I don't know how big that gear is, if it'll pass through this or if I have to actually unbolt this, which means taking this off, this off, this off, and disassembling the whole machine. So I guess we're going to get the pulley off, take the bolts out of the caps, and see what happens. Okay, I don't have a spanner wrench to fit these. I had to use a nice long chisel and just boom, knock them loose. So this one is actually the second one, and we'll see what it takes to get the pulley off, if it'll slide off or if I have to get a puller on it. Okay. That's going to have to come out. Okay, you got to take these screws out, and that should take this plate off, and there should be, according to the parts diagram, felt behind it. Okay, now there's 4 screws holding this that you have to go through these holes, and they are 5mm Allen screws. Well, apparently there's only 3 screws. Okay, now let's see if that'll tap out of there. Apparently, it is going to come out. Okay, there's one bearing. Now on the floor, and there's the other. This one I think is toasted. Alright, now we got to try to get the race out. Well, so far so good. got the races out over here and over here, and I'm spinning these gears in here and everything sounds good. I took this to work and pressed everything off of it. So now I just have to wait for the new bearings to come and we'll put it all back together. Okay, I got a little bit overzealous and I didn't get the camera out because my hands were all greasy, but I got it back in. I got these bolts back in here tight. I put this block in my vise and moved the carriage over up against it because this bearing on this side is a little bit of a press fit and you had to tap it on. I got that cover on, the screws tight. Seems to spin okay. Now I got to put this keyway in. I don't know if you can see that. And then this pulley, these nuts, and I gotta play with it to see how tight to make it. I did these mill bearings up in here some time ago and I actually had them too tight. They started getting hot on me. I had to take it back apart and back them off a little bit. So I'm going to try not to do that with this lathe, but I do want these as tight and snug as they can be. Well, this thing's been up and running for about a week now, and everything's working really good. I made some cuts with it. No chatter, no problems. It's quieter. I don't have the thumping that I had before. There's one thing, maybe a few things that I want to add into that I didn't show. I know I didn't show putting it back together. If you've taken it apart, putting it back together is pretty much the reverse. It wasn't about showing every detail how to do this. Really, it was about showing how this comes apart. Because for me, I really didn't know if I would have to take everything apart. But tightening these bearings, because it is somewhat of a press fit, is a little bit mystical. It's not like a tapered roller bearing, say on a car wheel, where you can really feel it out and snug it up, you know, and spin it. You can get a feeling for how tight your bearings are. So what I did, before I ever turned it on, I took the temperature here with a non-contact thermometer. I ran it for about a half hour and I looked for an increase in temperature, and I had very little. I had zero play, checked with a dial indicator in this direction or this direction, and that was with about a foot-long bar in here tugging on it. So I knew it was snug, but I didn't know how snug it was. So I bumped those nuts a little bit, tightened it up just maybe a third of the distance from here to the next notch, maybe that far. I ran it again, watched the temperature, still no real temperature rise. I did that 3 times until I actually moved that distance, approximately. And then I chickened out. I figured I didn't want to make it any tighter because these I made too tight the first time I did it. All in all, it seems to have worked out really well. My primary focus here was just to show some information, so if somebody, like I did, goes looking for how to do this on one of these machines, they at least have something that they can see as to how it comes apart, how difficult it is, what has to be done. So all I can say is thanks for watching.